Hey guys, it's Mike with Narcoleptic Customs, coming tonight with episode 8 for Project Stanley and the LS swap. Just to recap, it's a 66 GMC that my grandfather bought in 1967, drove for 25 years, and then I got it. So I've had it almost 20 years now, and drove it for a while, and now it's time to do something a little more updated and go with the 5.3 and 4L80, and I'll eventually turbocharge it. So anyways, episode 8 tonight is about the wiring mess I have, which I'm just going to work on getting it mounted, getting the computer and the harness module mounted. That way I can at least drive it the upcoming coach next Saturday, and it's Wednesday night this week, so I still have no drive shaft, no fuel lines, and the wiring hasn't even been completed. So trying to work on a mounting situation for it before I get into all of that stuff. So tonight we're going to work on that. I'll do some time-lapse video. I'm actually cutting up the factory mount here. I'm going to cut this angled part off because I don't have any inner fenders. So I'm going to cut the angled part off so I can build a plate that'll come off of the little part of fender I do have and mount it and keep it dry. So that's my goal for tonight, is to get these big holes closed up as well. So let's get started. All right, so probably gonna laugh, but I'm gonna cut my own collectors for the manifolds out of this spare bit of sheet I have here, mainly because I'm only gonna run this exhaust for probably 3 months. Now, again, I'm using the Eastwood plasma. I've got it turned way up. I've got the PSI set on about 70. That way I blow through this stuff, because this is right about the top end of this VersaCut 80. So I'm going to start from the edge and just work my way through. So this way I get my shoes out of the way. Man, I love this thing. All right, got to get positioned so I can see the line. Ow, that was my toe. That's hot. That thing is ugly, but let's see if you can see that. It's cut. All right, so I pulled the collector off of one of the exhaust manifolds and basically trimmed out here. I know it's probably a little small, but that's what's going to have to work, so I can jam it down in there, and then I'll weld this to this collector. I drilled a hole here so I can start it. Whew, that's too big. More of a hole, but it's close. And for the first one, I'll take that. I can make that work. In this little area right here, no, not right there. Come on now. Ah, you dirty rat. Spin it around, see if I can get it in the other direction. touching on one spot there in the back, and then this little ugly spot right here. Oh, see this? That worked. Well, it's ugly, but it's in there. So there's a couple spots I'll need to go in and fill, but I don't care. It's gonna be pretty awesome to have made that. So, and it'll give me a chance to work with my new welder. So that's a plus too. All right, let's get started on the second one. All right, so got them cut out. They're ugly as sin. But, like I said, I'm not going to spend any money on this thing just to have it sit for, so I'm not going to spend any money on it just to have it be on there for 3 months. So I'll make these work. I'll order the gaskets tomorrow, and that'll be it for this part of the exhaust. And I'll start working on the rest of the piping from there to bring it into the Flowmaster that was on it. So, all right, that's it for that part.
So I had to get the hood back on the truck so I can move it back outside, so I can move the Land Cruiser into the middle stall so I can start the LS install for it. So that's why the hood's going back on. And that's why I used a time lapse on this. I think I blew my shoulder out moving this hood by myself. So I think I'm going to look into doing a rack system with a chain hoist or something like that from the ceiling. So.
One other thing I did tonight was go ahead and mount the bracket for the fuse panel. I had to basically take and cut the bottom part off here that would have set on the Tahoe fender and smooth that out with the Dremel. I will make a plate for this side here so we don't have any splash up into the wiring. Of course, I filled the holes in the bottom, and I built a plate for the other side. You can see it right here, and I siliconed it on. So now it'll just be a matter of figuring out how to put something over the top so water doesn't splash down in there. But it doesn't need to do, I don't need to worry with that as much as getting it to the show next weekend. So let me show you what I got working right now. Okay, so that'll do it for episode 8. Got a lot done tonight, got a huge step forward in that sense, and have created the Roadkill list. I have, let's say Wednesday, I have 10 days to get ready for Coats and Caffeine, and I have, I don't know, 15 or 20 items on here. Things like routing the return line for the fuel system. I routed the feed line today. That wasn't very hard, but I've got to get a fuel filter installed. I've got to install the Walbro 450 I've got. I'm waiting on the filter for it to come in. I bought it on eBay. I've got a wire for the electric pump. I've got to get ready to do the drive shaft, or I've got to measure for the drive shaft so I can take it to Larry's. I've got to bolt down the transmission crossmember. For now, I'm just going to run the crossmember we had in there just because it's easy. It's already there. It's set up, and I don't think it'll create enough torque to really mess with it. It was just a piece of I-beam or C-channel that we had taken, we had cut flat so it'd sit on the frame rails. I've got to finish the exhaust, which is part of what we started tonight. I've got to ask Todd and Blake if I've got to leave the O2 sensors in. If I don't, it'll make life way easier. If I do, I'm going to have to figure something out. I've got to bolt down the shift linkage. What's really awesome is the column, the rod actually fits to the 4L80, so that'll be perfect. All I need to do in this first iteration is to get it to go park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then I'll be set. Shifting, I've got to install the gas pedal, so I'm going to have to build a bracket for that. I've got to do something with the front springs up here in the truck. It sits lopsided. The driver's side is down about 1.5 inches. lower than the passenger side, and I don't want that. So, because it'll only get worse as I put the battery and things like that in. I've had a mount come off on the passenger side sway bar, so I've got to do that. I'm going to try and get the rear sway bar mounted. You probably can't see it from back there. I need to build a battery tray. I need to wire for the power for the engine and the harness and everything. That won't be too hard. I got to install the starter, but I got to buy bolts for that. I can't find them. Got to figure out a fuel filler cap, fill it with fluids, buy a MAF, and buy an air filter. So not a huge list, but definitely enough to keep me busy for the next 10 days. So we'll see if we get there. It's going to be really, really close because I've never even tried to fire this engine and trans combo. So we'll see if we can get there. Subscribe to the channel to see if I make it. And you can find us on Facebook at Narcoleptic Customs, where there'll be a bunch of pictures of this. Thanks.